While gang crime hits the headlines, the daily reality of women and girls in London is often overlooked. Safe streets and a safe transport network are not a luxury, they are a necessity. So as Mayor, I will roll out CCTV cameras from day one. I will bring in 1,000 new police officers to specialist units to guarantee the safety of women and girls across London. I'll bring in guaranteed 24-hour patrols in the areas where women feel the most vulnerable. Currently, there are no CCTV cameras on the Central Line, the Bakerloo Line and the Piccadilly Line. So those carriages have no internal protection. I will put these cameras in place so we can catch and prosecute people who are committing these offences. In the last 4 years under Sadiq Khan, sexual attacks on the underground system have soared by 43%. It is important that we eradicate these black spots and increase security for women and girls across London. I'll provide 1,000 more police officers in focused units focused on tackling violence against girls and women, both publicly and in a domestic setting as well. I'll work to support the ongoing training and provision for safeguarding detectives, who deal with the most complex cases. I'll introduce 24-hour foot patrols in parts of London where women feel vulnerable. And increased police presence has a direct result on lowering crime in that area and increasing the safety for women and girls. A YouGov poll found that 1 in 3 women are taking regular steps to protect themselves from sexual assault and avoiding certain areas. So I feel these measures are really a good step to making London safer. Under my mayoralty, I will play a big part in addressing the plight of women and girls in London, how they're regularly harassed and regularly attacked. It's time to take this problem on from a policing point of view and, of course, a cultural point of view, and I will lead the conversation in that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking me to speak to this debate, and I hope you've seen the strong commitment Greens have to ending violence against women and girls today. I've been a vocal supporter of groups working on the front line in support of women affected by violence, and I've spoken up about the issue in the wake of the shocking murder of Sarah Everard and during debates and hustings so far in this campaign too. In my work on the London Assembly, I've been particularly concerned about cuts to lots of services, but also to specialist groups who support women from different minority, religious or cultural groups, and about how the hostile environment policies of the government can put women in danger if they cannot rely on funded support to leave a dangerous situation. Our manifesto has policies in all areas that deal with the reality of violence in society and seek to build a truly healthy society where no one is unsafe, and where people have options when things go wrong, so that they know where to get help at a time that makes a difference. I hope you'll read all our policies to see this broad public health approach in action. And finally, we need justice where violence takes place. Misogyny must be recorded like any other hate crime, and we need more resources to solve cases and bring justice for survivors. It's awful to see that rates of detection and sanctions against perpetrators have fallen in recent years, and that is not good enough. On the London Assembly, I've seen with my own eyes the problems within police teams facing huge workloads and inadequate resources, the lack of contact time with independent sexual violence advocates, and massive challenges due to the volume and intrusiveness of digital evidence required from victims. Fixing all this, it's a question of priority, and as Green Mayor, I hope you'll see that I will give the right priority to this problem that should be in the past. Thank you.
Hello, it's Sadiq Khan here. I want to start off by saying thank you to the End Violence Against Women Coalition for giving me the opportunity to send this message. I'm absolutely determined to ensure that every woman feels safe and is safe in our city. But I know that there's still a gap between this ambition and the lived reality of far too many women and girls who too often experience the scourge of sexism, abuse and violence. That's why I'm clear that we must take a zero-tolerance approach to all forms of misogyny, abuse and violence towards women. You've asked me for 3 areas I'll focus on if re-elected. First, I'll refresh my violence against women and girls strategy so that it takes a public health approach to ensuring women and girls are safe in our city. Second, I'll take steps to design out crime in the public realm and expand my night safety charter. I'll also continue campaigning for misogyny to be permanently included in the definition of a hate crime, making sure that we can get that written into law, as well as calling for sexual harassment to be made a specific offence. And finally, I'll continue to be upfront about saying that the unacceptable attitudes and behaviours of men must be addressed. So, in addition to continuing to invest in programmes to change the behaviour of those who abuse women, I'll continue to support men and boys being educated about sexism, misogyny, and the importance of respect and consent. If I'm re-elected on May the 6th, tackling violence against women and girls will be at the very heart of my plans to build a brighter future for all Londoners. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Luisa Porritt, the Liberal Democrat candidate for Mayor of London, and I want to just start by thanking you for raising the topic of ending violence against women and girls, because we've seen from the events of recent weeks how important it is that our voices are heard and we finally take action to end misogyny, which is the root cause of why this is happening. The aftermath of the tragic death of Sarah Everard has prompted a national conversation about how, as women, we can be safer and be treated as equals in our society. But I don't want this to be just another conversation that we have and move on from, like with the Me Too movement. I want to see action to bring about real change across our society. So one of the things that I would do as mayor is make sure that the police are held accountable for their actions, that when women report a crime that's happened to them, that they are taken seriously in the first instance, that policing is proportionate. We saw the way that the vigil on Clapham Common was policed completely disproportionately, male officers' knees on young women's backs. This shouldn't be happening in a modern society. And that's why I also want to create a women's board to hold the mayor to account on their strategy for ending violence against women and girls, because we need women's voices at the heart of this process, shaping policy, making sure that that strategy is effective and that things are progressing as quickly as we need and want them to. And finally, my Liberal Democrat colleague Caroline Pidgeon on the London Assembly has been leading a campaign to make sure that women who are trying to flee domestic abuse have an easier way of getting out of that situation by at least having access to free travel, a free journey, so that they can escape that situation. So that's a campaign that I will be taking up and will implement if I become Mayor of London. So thank you for all the work that you're doing, and let's continue the fight for equality together.
To end male violence against women and girls in London, we need City Hall to step up. Since the current mayor came into office, rates of domestic abuse and sexual assault have soared, and charge rates for sexual violence are 1/7 of what they were in 2016. Women expect and deserve better. So instead of putting more bobbies on the beat, I would invest the 42 million a year raised by increasing council tax on a whole society approach with anti-racism at its heart. An approach that recognises policing is only part of the solution. And to lead this work, I will create a new deputy mayor for ending violence against women and girls, to connect the dots between policing, housing, specialist services, and education. My 3 priorities are: number 1, ensuring that no woman fleeing violence is ever turned away from safe refuge and making London a sanctuary city for migrant women. Number 2, investing in prevention, including a properly funded perpetrator strategy and a register for serial perpetrators, education interventions from primary through to university, and public awareness campaigns to help create the cultural and behavioural change needed throughout society. Number 3 is reforming policing in London. This includes a rapid review and action to address institutional sexism and misogyny within the Met, working with the women's sector to create specialist policing units trained in trauma-informed practice, and making sure that more women have access to an IDVA or an ISVA. Vote for the Women's Equality Party on the 6th of May, and you can count on us to keep the pressure up inside City Hall, day in, day out. Thank you.